18 psychological secrets Nietzsche knew about human nature. What if everything you thought you knew about being human was a lie you told yourself to survive? What if your ambitions, your kindness, even your morality were masks? Nietzsche didn't just suspect this, he knew it. And he spent his life tearing off those masks, one by one, until only the raw, terrifying machinery of human psychology remained. These 18 psychological secrets aren't just theories, they are weapons. If you understand them, you'll see through people. You'll see through yourself. You'll understand why we do what we do, even when we pretend otherwise. And it all begins with a disturbing, liberating truth. We are not who we say we are. We are who we hide. Let's start with the first secret Nietzsche uncovered. Every human being is driven by a will. Not to happiness, not to love, not even to survival, but to power. This is what he called der Will zur Macht, the will to power. And it's not about politics or domination, it's deeper. It's about the fundamental drive to assert, to expand, to overcome, to transform. Everything we do, from falling in love to building businesses, to posting on social media, is ultimately an expression of this will. Even our suffering is often a twisted attempt to assert power. Power over others' attention, over our narrative, over meaning itself.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
But here's the terrifying part. We lie to ourselves about it. Instead of admitting that we want to be powerful, we paint our actions as selfless, moral, or rational. I want to help others. I want to make an impact. I just want to be happy. All beautiful lies. Nietzsche saw through them. He believed that most morality is a form of psychological camouflage, a way weak people use language to make their powerlessness look like virtue. You are evil because you are stronger than me, says the coward. I am good because I don't fight back, says the slave. This leads to the second secret. Most people are not afraid of immorality. They are afraid of agency. It's easier to follow rules than to create your own. It's easier to obey than to choose. Nietzsche despised the herd mentality, not because he hated people, but because he believed we were capable of more, of becoming Übermensch, the overman. Someone who doesn't just follow morality, but creates it. Someone who doesn't hide behind excuses, but takes responsibility for shaping their own life, even when it's terrifying. And let's be honest, what part of your life have you quietly handed over to the herd? The third psychological insight. Resentment is the most underestimated force in human behavior. Nietzsche called it ressentiment, a deep, slow-burning poison that builds up when we feel powerless but can't admit it. Instead of confronting our weakness, we redirect it outward. We mock the successful. We moralize against the powerful. We demonize what we secretly desire. Have you ever noticed how easily we say they got lucky or they're corrupt whenever someone rises above? That's not moral clarity. That's resentment speaking. And the more we deny it, the more it controls us. Now here's the fourth secret. We invent meaning to protect ourselves from the abyss. Nietzsche famously declared God is dead, but he wasn't celebrating. He was warning. The death of God meant the collapse of absolute values, the loss of any external, guaranteed source of meaning. And when that meaning dies, most people panic. They cling to ideologies, movements, religions, philosophies, anything to avoid staring into the bottomless void of meaninglessness. But Nietzsche saw an opportunity in that void. He believed that when all inherited meaning dies, we are forced to create our own. And that is the birth of true individuality. So ask yourself, what meaning in your life have you inherited, and what meaning have you actually created? The third psychological insight. Resentment is the most underestimated force in human behavior. Nietzsche called it ressentiment, a deep, slow-burning poison that builds up when we feel powerless but can't admit it. Instead of confronting our weakness, we redirect it outward. We mock the successful. We moralize against the powerful. We demonize what we secretly desire. Have you ever noticed how easily we say they got lucky or they're corrupt whenever someone rises above? That's not moral clarity. That's resentment speaking. And the more we deny it, the more it controls us. And finally, the seventh secret. We are most alive when we risk breaking. Nietzsche believed that safety was a kind of slow death. Comfort dulls us. Security softens us. But in struggle, in danger, in chaos, we become real. That's why he loved the metaphor of dancing on a tightrope. Life isn't about reaching a destination. It's about walking the rope, trembling, daring, balancing, falling, and rising again. Because only in that tension can something new be born. That's the spirit of the Übermensch, not perfection, but creative courage. So if you've made it this far, ask yourself, are you living a life of safety or of becoming? The fire below the smile, how our darkest drives secretly control our brightest moments. There's a strange and brutal beauty in what Nietzsche saw beneath the surface of human behavior. While most of us are taught that our best actions, the ones that seem generous, noble, or loving, come from the highest parts of our nature, Nietzsche flipped the lens entirely. He asked, what if even our brightest moments are rooted in something darker? What if behind every smile, every act of kindness, every noble sacrifice, there's fire, a deep, surging, often unconscious drive that has nothing to do with virtue and everything to do with power, fear, desire, and survival? This brings us to the eighth psychological secret. Altruism is often disguised self-interest. Nietzsche wasn't saying love is fake or that kindness is meaningless. He was saying something far more disturbing, that we often don't know the real reason we help others. We call it compassion. We call it empathy. But if we look deeper, what would we find? The desire to feel important, to be needed, to avoid guilt, to gain approval or even moral superiority. Nietzsche's point wasn't to mock kindness, but to challenge the illusion that it's ever pure. And once you start looking at human behavior through that lens, everything changes. You begin to see how even love can become a transaction, how even generosity can become manipulation, and how often we do good to feel good, not to do right. The ninth secret goes even deeper. We lie most convincingly when we lie to ourselves. Nietzsche believed that self-deception is not a bug in the human psyche, it's a feature. We don't just lie to avoid consequences. We lie to maintain our identity, our narratives, our sense of control. Your brain isn't built to tell the truth. It's built to defend the version of you that you want to believe in. That's why change is so hard. Because to evolve, you have to kill your current self-image, and that's terrifying. It's also why Nietzsche believed that most people don't want freedom. They want comfort. Because freedom means confronting the truth about who you are and who you're not. This leads us to the 10th secret. Our greatest virtues often grow from our deepest wounds. Nietzsche saw the human soul like a forge. The more intense the fire, the more pressure it survives, the stronger and sharper it becomes. He believed that wisdom doesn't come from peace, it comes from wounds that did not destroy us. Think about the people you admire most. Are they wise because they had easy lives, or because they suffered, endured, and transformed? Nietzsche believed that greatness is not born from comfort, it's born from wrestling with darkness and refusing to stay broken. So here's a question that might shake you. What if your greatest strength is hiding inside the very thing you've spent your life avoiding? The 11th secret is one of the most counterintuitive. We are seduced by what we fear. Nietzsche understood that fear is not just repulsion, it's attraction. We fear power, but we also admire it. We fear freedom, but we long for it. We fear chaos, but we crave the intensity it brings. That's why we're drawn to dangerous people, to disruptive ideas, to art that unsettles us. Fear isn't just a signal to run. It's a signal that something matters, that something has the power to change us. So next time you feel fear, ask yourself, is this a warning or an invitation? The 12th secret is subtle but radical. Language limits reality. Nietzsche believed that words are not windows, they are cages. We use them to describe reality, but in doing so, we shrink it. We trap experiences into definitions. We flatten emotions into labels. We reduce the infinite to the explainable. That's why he distrusted metaphysics, dogma, and rigid philosophies. Because every time we name something, we risk killing its depth. Think of how quickly you judge someone once you label them. Think of how often you dismiss your feelings once you define them. Nietzsche invites us to stand in the space before language, to feel more, to sense more, to be more without needing to name it. And finally, the 13th secret: we are not individuals, we are battlegrounds. Nietzsche believed that the self is not a single, unified thing. It's a conflict of drives, a war between instincts, desires, fears, and ambitions. You are not one identity. You are a chorus of competing voices. The part of you that wants to be great is fighting the part that wants to stay safe. The part of you that wants connection is fighting the part that fears vulnerability. And the tragedy? Most people spend their lives letting the weakest voice win. Comfort, conformity, excuses. But Nietzsche's challenge was this: what happens when you let your strongest voice lead? So now we ask, what if your best self isn't hiding in your light, but in your darkness? The mirror that lies, why your identity is just a story you keep repeating. We wake up every day and look in the mirror, not just at our reflection, but at an entire idea of who we think we are. I'm this kind of person. This is what I believe. This is how I act. But Nietzsche would tell you none of that is real. It's not truth. It's not essence. It's narrative. A fragile, rehearsed, often recycled story that we've told ourselves so many times, we've mistaken it for reality. And here lies the 14th psychological secret. Identity is not discovered, it is constructed. And because it's constructed, it can be deconstructed. It can be rebuilt, rewritten, reimagined. But most of us never do that. Because we're afraid. Afraid that if we let go of the story, there will be nothing. Nietzsche didn't believe in fixed selves. He saw the self as a process and ongoing work of art, constantly in flux. He wrote, "One becomes what one is," not in the sense that you're uncovering a hidden truth, but that you are always becoming, always shaping, editing, revising the self. But here's the trap. Most people stop becoming. They settle into an identity early on, usually one that's handed to them by family, culture, trauma, or fear, and then they spend the rest of their lives defending it, even when it no longer fits. Even when it no longer fits. Because the alternative freedom is terrifying. Freedom means responsibility. It means standing at the edge of your own unformed potential and asking, what do I want to become now? This is what Nietzsche meant when he said that man is a rope stretched between the animal and the Übermensch. We are not a finished product. We are an unstable crossing, a becoming. But what do we do instead? We cling to categories. I'm an introvert. I'm a rebel. I'm a nice guy. I'm a victim. I'm a success. I'm a failure. These are scripts. And the more you repeat them, the more your brain builds a cage around your possibilities. So here's the 15th secret. The more tightly you grip your identity, the more you strangle your evolution. Because you can't grow into something new while you're busy defending who you used to be. And this brings us to something even deeper. The 16th secret: we don't just lie to others, we lie through ourselves. Every identity, every story, every belief system you adopt becomes a filter, a way of seeing the world. But here's the thing: filters hide as much as they reveal. You start to only see what fits your story. If you believe you're a victim, you'll find proof of oppression everywhere. If you believe you're superior, you'll find flaws in everyone else. Identity becomes a lens that distorts reality. And before long, you're no longer seeing the world. You're seeing your narrative projected onto the world. Nietzsche warned that convictions are greater enemies of truth than lies. Why? Because lies can be questioned, but convictions feel like who we are. And that makes them dangerous. The 17th secret is subtle, but shattering. Your past is not who you are. It's who you were. Nietzsche rejected the idea that we must be bound by our history. He believed in the power of eternal recurrence, not as a literal truth, but as a thought experiment. If you had to live this exact life over and over again, would you change anything? That question isn't about regret, it's about agency. It's about waking up from the trance of repetition. Most of us live the same day, the same choices, the same thoughts, over and over. We don't live, we loop. But Nietzsche dared us to break the loop, to become the author of our own repetition, to choose our life so fully that we would live it again, and again, and again, without apology. So ask yourself, what part of your identity are you clinging to simply because it's familiar? And what would it look like to let that story die, not because it's false, but because you've outgrown it? And now, the 18th and final secret: you are not a noun, you are a verb. You are not a fixed thing. You are a becoming, a motion, a dance between what you were and what you might yet be. Nietzsche didn't want us to be good. He wanted us to be great. Not for applause or validation, but because greatness means becoming the fullest, most powerful version of yourself, one that no one else can copy. Because no one else has lived your chaos, your pain, your fire. That's what it means to become the Übermensch, not a perfect human, but a self-created one. A human beyond shame, beyond rules, beyond the mirror's lie. So let me ask you right now, what would your life look like if you stopped trying to be someone and started daring to become something? The last freedom. Why becoming who you are is the most dangerous and beautiful act of all. Nietzsche didn't want followers. He wanted fire starters. He wasn't here to hand you a set of rules or a path to salvation. He was here to tear away every illusion you've been taught to love, every comfortable belief, every identity that kept you small, every moral system that made you obedient instead of powerful. Why? Because the final, most profound secret he understood about human nature is this: you are free, but that freedom is terrifying, and most people would rather live in chains than face it. Think about it. What does real freedom mean? It means there are no guarantees, no cosmic justice, no pre-written destiny, no external meaning waiting for you in the stars. It means you are the one who must give shape to the formless, who must draw a map where there are no roads, who must become the sculptor of yourself. That is the last freedom, and it's not comfortable. It's not safe. It's not even kind. But it is real, and it is yours. Nietzsche wanted us to understand that to become who you are is not a gentle process. It is a war between the parts of you that want to rise and the parts that want to hide. Between the self you are meant to become and the self you've been told to be. This is why Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch not as a superhero, but as a next evolution. A kind of person who doesn't need a god to tell them what's right, who doesn't need a system to give them value, who doesn't need applause to feel alive. The Übermensch is dangerous to the world not because they destroy, but because they create from nothing. They invent values. They redefine meaning. They are not bound by shame, by hurt opinion, by the past. And this isn't easy. It requires courage most people never find. The courage to walk alone. The courage to be misunderstood. The courage to burn away everything that isn't truly you, even if that means starting from ash. You see, the world doesn't fear conformity. It fears authenticity. Because when one person becomes truly free, they become a mirror, and that mirror shows everyone else their own chains. That's why society will pressure you to stay small. That's why people mock those who dream wildly, who speak boldly, who live differently. Because deep down, we all know the truth. Freedom is possible, but it costs everything fake. Nietzsche's final challenge to us was this: will you pay that price? Because there is no blueprint for becoming yourself. There is no shortcut, no 10-step plan. The only way forward is inward, into tasks, into the doubt, into the parts of you that don't make sense, that don't fit, that feel too raw, too much. But those parts, that's where the gold is. That's where your real self lives, not the polished version, but the becoming. The flame that keeps moving, keeps breaking, keeps creating. So let me ask you one last time, who would you be if you had never been taught to fear your own power? What would your life look like if you weren't performing for anyone, not your family, not your culture, not even yourself? What if you stopped measuring your worth by how well you fit in, and started measuring it by how boldly you stand out? Nietzsche didn't promise comfort. He promised transformation, and transformation is violent. It kills what you were. But in its place, it gives birth to something terrifying and beautiful. A self that belongs only to you, a self that doesn't need permission, a self that dances, that creates, that wills itself into existence over and over again. That is the last freedom, and it is waiting for you not in heaven, not in books, not in the approval of others, but in the fire you've been taught to avoid. Step into it. Become who you are.